So, for those of you that don't know, there's obviously been a little bit of legal troubles between Denims, Frogan, Casey Tron, and Ethan Klein from H3 Podcast, because they went along and they took one of Ethan's videos, which I think was a content nuke on Hassan Piker, and they decided to try and put that video on their stream for the deliberate purposes of making sure that Ethan Klein doesn't get any revenue from people going to it themselves and watching it themselves. And they deliberately say this out loud as well. I believe Casey Tron's already been through hers and settled, and she had to pay out some money and say a public apology. Now there's just Casey Tron and Frogan, which I'm not completely up to date with what's going on there, but I think we're about to find out.
Denims and Casey Tron stepping into a bit of hot water today in different circumstances in the lawsuit with Ethan Klein. We have updates for you today, all the details on the legal mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney over here in Asia, and this is a fast facts video, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. So in case you didn't know, there are three parties and some sub-John Doe parties in a copyright infringement lawsuit with Ethan Klein and his company TED Entertainment over his content nuke of Hassan Piker. And that is an ongoing lawsuit. But all of the parties are in different positions, and we've still got a lot of stuff that's going on there. But the Reddit and Discord mods, we're not going to talk about
While
today.
this is going on,
But
I'm going to go and refill my coffee. I'm still listening to it.
Of course.
I'm going to blow my nose.
Casey Tron and Frogan. So Denims is in the position where she has committed herself to trial. So she has said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to proceed with trial, and that's what I want. But the problem is that Denims has not shut up about the lawsuit on the internet.
Ethan Klein, his bread and butter content for basically the entirety of his YouTube career has been maliciously reacting.
So now we have lots of information about Denims and Denims' legal strategy. Now we have Casey Tron. Now, Casey Tron can be considered perhaps one of the smarter ones of the three, in that she settled a lawsuit that she clearly perceived she was going to lose. She was bleeding resources, as is the case with these lawsuits. And she entered into a settlement with Ethan Klein, is now paying him out, getting money that was raised in her defense that is now going towards Ethan Klein into Ethan Klein's pocket. And on top of that, she issued a statement, an apology. And that's going to be the very key thing we're going to talk about here, with some warnings for Casey Tron and what she needs to watch out for, just looking out in the best interest of Casey Tron, so she's careful in the future, because Ethan Klein gave her a little hint in a recent clip. And of course, I'm not forgetting about my Habibi Frogan. Now, she's not the main character today. She's kind of a side character in this, because she's actually been rather intelligent as well. She's remained silent. She's really shut up about the lawsuit, which is smart. And she actually got an extension on some of her responses and filings, so she's got time to respond. So she's not off the hook, and I still would advise Frogan to go and settle with Ethan Klein, similar to Casey Tron, but I know that she's probably holding out because the apology that she may be required to make by Ethan Klein is something she perhaps doesn't want to make publicly. And for the same reasons that Casey Tron is going to struggle with an apology now, Frogan might struggle even more with her apology. So let's get into the first video when we talk about Denims. But first, opening statement. So we're going to talk about Denims announcing no settlement and desire for trial and continuing to make statements. And then we're going to get into Casey Tron settling, giving out an apology, and now hinting at needing a warning from Ethan Klein.
Wait.
So let's watch this clip.
Hinted at needing a warning from Ethan
Really
Klein.
gets us started off on her feelings about reaction content and what's good and what's bad. And the important thing to pay attention to with Denims, because it goes to her legal strategy, is it is a subjective, emotional argument. This is an argument from a year ago, and then we're going to pair this up with a recent argument.
Here, we'll make this a grander scale.
Now, remind you, the question here is, what is your stance on reaction channels reacting to your content and essentially re-uploading this? So this is about this. This is kind of quintessential to the Ethan Klein lawsuit.
If you check your bank account and like Chase accidentally refunded you an extra $50, you might look at that and be like they were supposed to refund you for some charge or something, and then they accidentally gave you another $50, and you see that, and you're like, I didn't see anything. Well, listen, they can correct it. They can find it themselves. They can correct it. I don't really care that much. All right. I don't really care that much. If some old lady on the street is like, hey, you know, do you have change for a $10 bill? Nobody carries cash, but like,
I do.
Change for a $10 bill. I just need to pay the meter. And she hands you a $50 bill instead of a $10 bill and says, oh, you know, times are so tough right now, but you know, gotta pay the meter. And you keep the 50. See how one of those feels morally worse?
And note
okay, I think he's just got it cropped
weird.
weird.
The feelings right now. She's going to say this in a second, but that is absolutely not the law, and she's totally confusing the law and what's actually theft here, not theft. And by the way, this is not copyright infringement. Is distinguishable. It's different than actual theft, but the pairing is there.
One of those feels like you're stealing from.
I mean, to be fair, reaction channels is sort of a love-hate relationship for a lot of people, because reaction channels can also make or break someone's fame. If there is a reaction channel out there that reacts to someone who's larger than them in a negative light, and that reaction ends up getting a lot of attention, all of a sudden that makes the other person look really, really bad. Like, it's the same thing with what happened with Hassan and his shocking the dog, as it was the reaction channels that ended up bringing that against him.
From someone who does need it, or you're stealing from, I don't know, not a corporation. One of those feels worse. We're not talking about legality. It's theft regardless. We're talking about what is morally worse. It's theft regardless.
So let's focus on that. It's not theft. So let's just be very clear in that example, because that was a very bad example when you're coming to theft. Theft requires an action plus intent, right? So if, for example, a bank had a sort of clerical error or some sort of IT error where they send you too much money, on your side, you don't have any.
Oh, I'm not bad, Miriam. Thank you. How are you?
Notice, etc. And you know, once again, they're not pairing up.
Just here watching, catching up on the latest dramas and what have you. You know, all the fun stuff. At the moment, we're just watching the legal information around about Denim and Casey Tron's lawsuit with Ethan Klein. I don't think they're talking about Frogan at the moment.
Way to enrich yourself. That's not something you're doing in that example. So that example, kind of, let's throw that one out completely. Stealing from a little old lady is definitely morally bad, right? You could make an argument in that scenario, whether there's intent or not, whatever. But the point is, neither one of those really good examples, because you're not going out there and making a statement. Once again, that's the Ethan Klein lawsuit, that you want to take views, i.e. revenue, from somebody else. You want to redirect people from that content. That's the key here in this distinguishment. And she's going to continue to make that blurry line when it comes to the most recent clip we have from her. Amaru is going to talk about reacting and reaction content and what's not okay. But she's actually not directly talking about the Ethan Klein lawsuit. But because of the Ethan Klein lawsuit, Denims drags her into this and ends up coming at her pretty ridiculously. Let's listen in.
Mr. Daly wouldn't
Whichever one knows, if you're getting involved in a lawsuit, your best course of action is to not talk about the fucking lawsuit. Asmongold knows this. Tectone, I think, knew this. He still talked about it a little bit. Mizkif does not know this at all. And who else has there been? Fuck, there's so many. There's too many to count. But you just don't talk about your lawsuits.
He likes my tweets sometimes.
Anything that you can and say will be used against you.
React, like they react to people they hate, and they're like, watch me so that they don't get any views.
Now that's the key there. Amaru nails it. Without being a lawyer, without making internet content, without anything else, that it's the statement that you're going out there publicly and saying, watch me, instead of that content as a replacement for that content.
And that's what I was saying earlier as well. You can't put someone else's content up deliberately to try and direct traffic away from the video.
Rather than being transformative, rather than being original, rather than being something that can be watched as well as the original content, you're saying, I am going to use my reaction content to purely steal from you, and making that open and public and notorious, and let everybody know that that's exactly what you're doing, because that's the dividing line. And without even really trying there, Amaru nails it. Let's see what Denims has to say.
The craziest thing about all of this is the person bringing this lawsuit, Ethan Klein, his bread and butter content for basically the entirety of his YouTube career has been maliciously reacting. That is to say, reacting with like distaste for the person who created the original content. Which is
So let's be very
Yes, I mean, it's not really a good argument saying that, oh, but Ethan Klein does React content. He's always done React content. It's like, he didn't do it maliciously to, yeah, exactly, you're going to jail. But Ethan Klein didn't do all this maliciously, all right? He didn't do all of his React content maliciously. He did it for the love of the game. And I'm pretty sure he gave credit where credit was due as well.
clear.
He didn't specifically say, watch this so they don't get money.
Trying to confuse the word malicious here because in her case, where malicious comes in is her public action and public statement about redirecting views. It's not about
Told you.
whether you dislike somebody or not. You can hate somebody and react to their content, right? But she's trying to use the word malicious in a weird way to kind of confuse everybody here. So don't get side railed on that.
what she's suggesting. That you can't just react to people that you hate. You can't do that, which is not how the law works, by the way. You can react to whoever. You don't have to like the person you're reacting to.
So she's got one thing
Yeah.
right. Yes,
Yeah, I
you
was
can
gonna
definitely
say.
react to people you don't like. In fact, that can be great content. Reacting to somebody you hate and then totally debunking their arguments is absolutely awesome content sometimes. But you cannot go out there and use your
I think that if I ever go to like a Twitch con or something along those, I think this guy might, I think he's on Twitch, or it might just be specifically YouTube. But if I ever go along to one of these things, I think what I need to do is cosplay as Legal Mindset. I mean, hold on.
content in your platform as a replacement for what they're doing and say you're doing that and advertise that you're doing
I
that.
gotta look in the
Well,
camera.
guys,
Oh no.
Awesome
But,
content.
I mean, come on. Pretty close. I just need to like brush my hair over, but I don't want to mess up my hair right now. But that's, I mean, he looks slightly older than me. I actually think we might be roughly around the same age. How old is Legal Mindset? Because I like Legal Mindset. He always seems to be relatively fair. He obviously has a bias. Like, there's no way to get around that. But I think he's probably, what, 38, maybe? 39? I'm going to go with 38, 39. But I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Okay? I apologize.
Sometimes. But you cannot go out there.
To be fair, I've always felt like Americans look older than they are as well. I think it's because when you watch TV growing up and you see Americans on TV, just watching people on TV in general, that people look bigger. But I thought Americans in particular looked older. So must have something to do with the food you guys are eating.
there and use your content in your platform as a replacement for what they're doing and say you're doing that and advertise that you're doing that.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed not giving any views to that terrible video, follow, subscribe, throw a prime. If you like the content, if you enjoyed your time here.
Which is Denim's key problem here, which is the really core of the issue with Denim. So looking at the arguments from Denim, she's still...
I know it's part of being a streamer, but one thing I really don't like doing is sort of... It's not begging. I guess it's pleading in a way, but it's also the only form of advertising that you can really go with on YouTube is when you turn around and say, hey guys, please like and subscribe to my channel, because I need likes and subscribes. It's like, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that channels thrive on engagement. I shouldn't have to tell people to subscribe. If they like the content and they're here, then they'll go, oh, you know what, I like this guy, I might subscribe. Obviously saying it out loud reminds people and they go, oh, that's right, I haven't subscribed yet. But I don't know, I don't like that method. I just feel weird trying to like convince people of stuff. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything, alright? I'm here strictly to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about, and if anyone has a problem with that, they can go and sit on their thumb. I don't give a fuck.
crap crafting emotion-based arguments on the relative evil of Ethan Klein and the bad he's going to do from this judgment. But she's revealing her legal strategy. She's telling literally Ethan Klein's
You've convinced me.
so they can prepare a counter argument in trial, which is going to be easily debunked. When she's trying to claim that Ethan Klein's lawsuit is about disliking the content creator you're reacting to and would prohibit reacting to people you dislike. That's not the framing of Ethan Klein's lawsuit. If you've paid attention on this channel in our review in depth on that lawsuit, on the filings, that's not how it's framed at all, or how a ruling would result. I can tell you right now, 100% mindset guarantee that in no way, if Ethan Klein won, would a U.S. court say, you can no longer react to content you don't like. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't care what judge is on there. I don't care their political
It's
position.
impeding on free speech.
That's not something that's going to happen in U.S. jurisprudence. However, when they may make a very clear ruling about making open and clear statements to divert revenue and divert views. And when you're making an open, clear statement, you're making it public, that once again changes the balancing act on what's fair use and what's transformative and what's not. And that can be a very heavy weight when you're weighing these things out. And I think that's the thing that Denims is just completely missing. Now, let's turn to Casey Tron. So Casey Tron issued an apology as part of the settlement with Ethan Klein. And the issue is that Casey Tron can run into trouble if she changed her position on the Ethan Klein lawsuit or potentially reversed any of the apologies. So if she actually ended up, backing out of her apology, for example, saying, hey, I now think the Ethan Klein lawsuit is BS, that would violate her agreement with Ethan Klein, and Ethan Klein can bring down the hammer on her for that. Also, if there's any other specific apologies which she backs down on, for example, certain things that she said and apologized to Asmongold for, that would be a possible cause for Ethan Klein to come back in and also drop down the hammer.
That is true.
Now, that doesn't mean she can't disagree with anything that Asmongold says or other content creators says. It doesn't mean she can't dislike people. It doesn't mean she can't go out there and react to content and have her opinions. But she does need to think carefully. And this is something that Ethan Klein just recently reminded her of.
Casey Tron, friend of the show and my favorite benefactor. She's my favorite patron. Isn't it nice getting a check every month?
All that GoFundMe, remember, all that GoFundMe money that's left over is all going to Ethan Klein. Isn't that great for all those that donated to Casey Tron? Beautiful.
From my favorite patron. So, friend of the show, Casey Tron, everybody.
The good thing is that if I ever get included in any of these fucking clips, at least there's a space for me, Right here. There's a space for me right here, right in the top right-hand corner of these videos, because we've got Casey Tron in the bottom right, Ethan in the bottom left, Emeru in the top left. There's a big space here. Who can go there? I think I know who can go there.
And she has a take about Emerald.
A huge fucking streamception right now.
I saw her apologizing to Asmongold, who she despises.
Yeah.
That was pretty humiliating. I'm surprised she's still running her mouth. By the way, why are you so mad at her? Like, they're talking about her so nasty. She didn't do anything.
And it's going to be brought up exactly why they are talking about her nasty, because it's rooted in this whole narrative that's going on in the Hassan orbit right now regarding the Ethan Klein lawsuit. So the root of the anonymity there is because it really relates back, to, at least in part, maybe not in whole, but at least in part, to that Ethan Klein lawsuit animosity, which is where she has to be careful.
Except be like, why do I need to say fuck ICE? Like, I'm just here playing video games, right?
First fucking men. And
well, I'm guessing it's the same reason that Denims is going in on her, because of what she said about the lawsuit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why she's mad. That was Casey. I think maybe Casey Tron forget her public statement, but she also thought my lawsuit was like really valid. And she wished me luck against the other people, too.
She did that.
So I think Casey John must have forgot her position on this, right? Hopefully I don't have to remind her, right?
There we go. And once again, that little barb, hope I don't have to remind her, because if he's got a reminder, that's going to be some legal process. Now, I want to be very clear. Nothing that Casey Tron said there is a very short clip. She didn't say anything that's going to necessarily violate that. But when she's reacting to content, she does need to be careful, and she needs to be careful that she doesn't accidentally react to some content that's anti-Ethan Klein lawsuit and
Yep.
then bring out another position. That's a little helpful hint for Casey Tron, that she just needs to be careful when she's reacting to content, because she can maybe indirectly, maybe inadvertently, violate that agreement with Ethan Klein. And that's what she's got to be careful with here. So let's go to the judgment. So in summary today, Denim still doesn't understand subjective feelings towards reaction content versus objective statements on redirecting viewers. That's a concept she's not getting. And obviously, her legal team has told her that's the strategy, and she's now revealing that for the world, which is going to make this case even easier. A case that was already balanced against Denham's, Frogan, and Casey Tron, make this case even easier for them as they go to trial. At this point, if I was her lawyer, and certainly I think her lawyer should, send her the memo to shut up. And stay quiet. Take the Frogan tactic, right? That would be better at this point than giving away your ridiculous position and once again explaining to everybody that this is about facts over feeling. Casey Tron, meanwhile, hasn't said anything to violate the settlement yet, but needs to be careful to avoid carelessly copying the Hassan Orbit talking points of the week, whatever they are focus firing on. That might be something
Maybe
that
in the
might
drama
get her into
sphere.
trouble, because she goes overboard and says more than she can. And, maybe if you're out there not paying attention, maybe you're, token on something, that might actually make you slip up. But I want to know what you guys think about the lawsuit. What do you think about what's going on? And I will catch you on the next one.
I mean, that was pretty good. There wasn't like a shitload of stuff in there that was new information. Most of it's just rehashing the whole, like, they're talking dumb shit during their cases when they shouldn't be. But yeah, I think that was alright. I'll post this in the chat for anyone that wants to also follow him as well.